playing the game, some essential things to know is when you talk as your character, talk in first person. You can, there have been times where I might use third person, and I'll go over that. An example would be time skips. But usually, when you're doing something, just talk in first person, and the AI will understand you're talking as your character, such as I did here. I do a backflip and punch Sir Kalen. You could do Anya does a backflip and punches Sir Kalen, but talk in first person. Now, if you do a time skip, this is especially relevant when you're playing with other players. Is sometimes an action you might do, you might say, "Oh, I want to spend the night polishing my boots." Well, the AI might take that to literally mean, okay, we're gonna pass because the AI keeps track of the date and time. So if I put in, I want to spend the night polishing my boots, the AI may take that and say, okay, well, we're gonna pass the whole day, and you polish your boots the whole time. Here it told me no because I'm in active combat. Understandable. However, so something you might want to do is if you have multiple players playing, you might say, "Oh, I plan to spend the night polishing my boots," and then say something along the lines of, "I wait for other players' input." Other player being, let's say, Sir Kalen's Briscoli. I'd be like, "Oh, I wait for Sir Kalen's input." Another thing to do, which I would recommend, especially for larger time skips. For example, in one of our mercenary games, Briscoli and I are playing. We've had a couple 3-month time skips, and so we'll write a long message and we'll send it as one message. I won't send something, then he sends something. What we'll do is we'll put our messages together, we'll just send it to each other on Discord. So I'll say like, "Oh, over the next 3 months, Anya plans to do this, this, and this, and Sir Kalen plans to do this, this, and this." And that way, when it does the time skip, it properly accounts for everyone in the party. Um, some things that if it time skips and you didn't want it to, but it did, something you could do is, besides manually setting it and deleting the messages, it may change a lot of things in that time skip that might be too much. But let's say I'm Sir Kalen and Anya accidentally time skipped the 3 months and I didn't get to put my input. You could immediately send a message saying, "Oh, during those 3 months, Sir Kalen was doing this, this, and this." Um, Specifically mentioning those 3 months that already passed, and it should give you essentially like as if you had done the 3 months, but it doesn't move the time a second time. Another thing you do is what I call meta requests. So let's say the AI is doing something wrong and you want it to fix it. Like, "Oh, I'm trying to leave this combat. I'm trying to surrender, but it's not letting me surrender." It's like, "Oh, I want to surrender." What you can do to talk to the AI out of game is do open parentheses, meta request, colon, 2 little dots. And then I can say, "Oh, Anya should be able to surrender." Now, let's just assume that it's been telling me, "No, you can't surrender. You're fighting to the death." I could do a meta request, and I can tell the AI, "Hey, I should be able to surrender right now." Sometimes the AI argues with you about it, but generally, if you want to talk to the AI, that is how you do it. I've said this before. A lot of things have left click, right click abilities. So if I go in here, I could go to background history, right click. If I left click on this current location, it brings this up. If I right click, open location, assign location, unassign. If I go to the inventory, I can right click and I get a context menu of different options. So here, we can go into a little bit about stickers. So I'm gonna drag out a new sticker. We're gonna drag out Anya. Let's see, party. So, and you know what we'll do? We'll do it this way because I want to show this. So if you have the location open, you have this, you can drag out from here You can drag out their stickers. So if you're in a location and you want to drag out the NPC stickers, you can just go to the characters in the location and drag them all out. Of course, this is an actual different location than where we're currently at, but that's besides the fact. I'm just using this as an example. So here, if I want to scale the picture, I use this little box here and I can scale it. If I want to rotate it, doop, doop. Now if I right click this rotation, it'll snap it back. This will delete the sticker. And then we see here it's above this other sticker. I can put this down arrow to send it to the back. Up arrow, send it to the front. This arrow will flip it horizontally. And all this is networked between clients. This one, it will parent it to another sticker. So let's say I want Anya to be a mutated freak who's attached to this guy. I click this, and then I click on that sticker. And I misclicked it. Come on. There we go. So I'd have to do it vice versa, but you see here, she moves, he moves. This is primarily good for if you have items. So if I have an item that I want to attach to a character, and if you right-click this, you'll see it has a little blue box. You right-click it, it'll unset it. So I'll move her back here. So if I want to put this quiver on her, I want this to be a big quiver. She has the biggest arrows. Click on that. I don't know why. Seems to be a weird layering issue. Okay. So I think I just found the new bug. So excuse that. Yeah, that is a new bug. So that will be fixed. But we'll, for now, I can attach it to her. And going back to stickers, we'll delete this. And it was her parent, so I deleted her. We have these two buttons at the top right. This K is for chroma. Yes, I know. But you can click on the sticker on a specific color and chroma key it out. And this sets up, how much it does it by. So let's say you have an image that has a background in it, and you want to get rid of it. You can use this. And then you can right click it to get away. This C is to crop. So if I want just her upper body sticking out, and then I rotate her just a little bit more, I can shove her coming out from behind that tent. So you have a couple different tools with it. Going next, so image generation. So if I upload an image, so if I set photo from file, and that photo has a background on it, I can just right click it and remove image background. And it will use a little bit of AI to remove the background. That's no cost. It's all done locally. Pixelize image, what it will do is essentially go through a process that enlarges and shrinks the image. It kind of puts a pixelization effect on it, and it's especially good for when you get pixelized AI art. It's usually not perfect. Putting it through this makes it look more actually pixelized. And that's something that's automatically done if you have the word pixel in your art style. I can unassign it here. So, generate scenes. So if something happens, let's say right here, I can hit generate scene from image, and we'll go image in 3. So you're not going to see it pop up. You're not going to see it pop up because it pops up on my computer. It doesn't pop up in game, but it will generate the image and it will bring it up on your computer and whatever your image browser is, showing you the image. And I'm going to throw this in here. So our scene here is her surrendering. And just because I can, I will set the image it's not gonna look great because it's gonna be all squished, but you can see that it did generate the image. Now it generates this on like a desktop resolution, which is why it looks squished. But her surrendering to the guy in the fight, this is what it looks like. So I like Imogen 3 for pixel art. I find it comes out much better. Um, so I would generally suggest that, unless you're going for another more realistic art style, then maybe go for Imogen 4 or Imogen 4 Ultra, though they also cost more to use. So chat box options, I've kind of gone into this a little bit. You can edit messages, you can delete them, you can resend them. So when I resend a message, it'll be like, let's say I didn't get a result I wanted. I can right click my message, resend message. Doop. And it will delete what's below it as long as it's the most recent player message. And it will resend it. Now, if the message changed something it changed, something in your character, reduced rate of speed, it's not going to undo that. You'd have to manually undo that if that was the case. The text to speech, you can right click, hit play with TTS. We have gone over player notes already. It's useful to use both as a player and if you're DMing, I suppose, or playing as a host. Now, the last thing I'm going to go over is cutting down the usage costs. So, I think in general, depending on the size of your campaign, a smaller campaign might cost about 30 credits per action using Pro. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head using Flash, but it's significantly lower. But in a longer campaign, such as I have a mercenary company campaign I'm doing that's been going on for, I don't know, maybe like 7-8 hours at least. It's built up a bit of locations and characters and memory, and it probably cost me about 50 tokens per action. And again, if you use Flash, then that cost will be significantly lower. But generally, I like to use the best, so I use Pro. I would recommend just keeping summary and content model on Flash, and then using Gemini Pro for actions. However, if you want to cut down the cost and credits, you can switch this to Gemini Flash, which, by the way, you can see the cost of all your actions. You don't have to track it in the credits. If you go to the game files and then you go to the logs folder, there is a folder called I believe Steam API pricing, something like that. And you go in there and it will have a list of how much each actions cost you, and that includes the cost of background content generation, summaries, all that fun stuff. But back to lowering costs, so you can set this to Flash. I've tested with Gemini Flash Lite, and it was basically unusable, but Gemini Flash seems to work pretty well still. I haven't limit tested it to see what might not work with it, but from what I've played with it, it's worked fine. And then furthermore, if I want to cut down costs, then you don't really have to change this. I would leave this the same. That's not a big cost factor. AI notes, this is a slight cost factor. If you're playing a campaign that doesn't really need a lot of notes, you could just set it to 750 or 1000, something lower. AI temperature does not affect cost. This is where you're going to get a lot of costs down, and same with image generation. So if you have maybe one or just two players, you could probably set this down to 20 or 30 and save a little bit on cost. Like, this is it's a decent factor on cost. Long-term history count, this one heavily depends on how long have you been playing. If it's a short campaign, it's not going to affect much. If it's a longer campaign, it will affect more. So this, you could always turn it down if you don't care too much about it, remembering, what did I do 300, 400 actions ago. The closest character count, you could probably just set this to 0, be fine. This is not a super important one, and it's honestly for more niche advanced uses. For example, if you just don't have any locations and characters are just locationless, and for some reason you want to use them, That's what you would use it for. Closest location count, I personally would always leave this to 1. But you could put this to 0. Uh, but you would be lacking, if we're in the crossroads right now, like from the earlier part, and we're in a sub location in the crossroads, it's going to know we're in the crossroads, but nothing else about the crossroads. The less context location count, which I actually haven't opened the map for this yet, but basically these settings right here, everything here in my unnamed camp is going to be, because it goes by distance to the party, is going to be the closest location count, and it's going to give me the most info. The next 10, so it's probably going to be like these 5 and these 5 here, so these 10 locations around me, that doesn't include my current one. These 10 I'm going to get a lot of info about, but reduced. So it's going to tell me about the locations, the sub-locations, the characters. It would be perfectly reasonable for me here to be like, okay, let's turn this down to, let's say 3. The 3 closest locations be like Bam Bam, and either it's going to be one of these 2. Or 5. So, okay, these 5 locations I know about, and the AI will know about at any point. So if I play the game, naturally, the AI might be like, oh yeah, maybe we should go to Port Silverwood. There might be work here. Maybe there'll be Myerton. If you have this set down low, it might not. It basically, anything outside of these 5, unless you directly say, oh, what about Cragspire? You ask an input, what about Cragspire? It will send that location's info without needing to be a part of these. But as per what the AI sees naturally, with these settings, it's gonna see these locations. Now, another big cost factor is gonna be image generation. Now, if you have your own little AI service or image generation, you can turn this off. Simple as that. And you can just not use it. However, if you just want it to be built in and to be done automatically, you can use this. But you can change, okay, well, what if I don't want characters generated? I have my own character pictures. I don't care too much about stickers, and if I do want to, I'll get my own pictures. You can turn that off, so it won't automatically generate for characters. Same for locations. Like, oh, I have my own backgrounds. I'll set those up by myself. You can turn it off. I generally would not suggest having auto-generate on for items. For every character that gets made, it tends to make 3 items for them. So if it makes, 10 to 15 NPCs in a town it just generated for you, there may be, 45 item images, and then you're looking at, a lot of credits right there. That's like 1,000 something credits for images that you're not going to use. So I would generally, the option's there if you really want it, but generally I would leave it off. But if I want to save money, I'll just turn this off, keep this to flash, and keep these to flash. Now, once there's future models, hopefully cheaper models, I tend to playtest stuff, and if it works well enough, then I put it on here. Now, if you have your own local model and you wish to use it with Skaldsong, that may be an option you can explore. Go check out the Discord for more information. And as for context, I would suggest these settings if you're trying to keep a lower count.